boom. I hate these little things that my blinds are giving me. Hey y'all, what's going on? Good morning. I ran upstairs, and I left my ring. Good morning, good morning. Hey, Dr. Sheila. Hey, everybody. Hey, Brazil. Good morning, good morning. Good morning. Hey, I'm just loyal. Hey, Donnie. Good morning. Hey, May. Hey, cousins. How's everybody doing? Good morning, TikTok. Good morning, Instagram. Good morning, Facebook. And good morning, YouTube. Hey, everybody. How's everybody doing? Hey, Shira. Hey, Chrissy. Hey, Madeline. Hey, Legacy. How are you? Hey, Diva Granny. Hey, Tanya. Hey, CC Sugar Mama. Hey, how's everybody? How was everybody's yesterday? I know I kind of threw a curveball. We didn't have class. Don't y'all hate that? When I used to go to, years ago, sometimes I would stay on campus and sometimes I wouldn't. I went to Tougaloo and I would drive all the way to school, get all the way to campus, and then find out that my first class was canceled. And I'm like, y'all couldn't tell nobody that? But I try my best to tell y'all ahead of time. But usually what happens, good morning, Kathy. What happens is after sitting with the Lord, sometimes he'll just say, no class today. You know what I mean? And I'm not trying to make things super religious or super hyper spiritual. Sometimes there's just no class. And yesterday, what the Lord was telling me to do was to be obedient and sit in prayer, right? I think where God is taking us right now is he's reviving prayer life. He's reviving prayer life. And that's the walk that he has us on. And so it's not just a conversation that we have, but he wants us to live it out and practice it too. Good morning. As you're coming in, make sure you're greeting your cousins, telling them what's up, what's up, what's up, what's up, what's up. And then as you're greeting your cousins, take a look and let's do roll call. Whoever's not here and you know they're supposed to be in here, go ahead and share the live with them. Share it with your friends, your family, and people that get on your nerves because you know they definitely need some class every now and then. And to be honest, TikTok, to be honest, we all need some class. So I appreciate y'all being the best part of class. I appreciate y'all coming in and showing up. I really, really love y'all, and I really, really mean it. There are a couple of people I want to ask for corporate prayer with. CC being my sister is one of them. I want you guys to join me in corporate prayer as she navigates. She's not been feeling her best lately. And so I want you guys to stand in agreement with us and pray that she has supernatural, speedy recovery. And then, of course, Heaven Wright, who's our cousin, who underwent a what is it? She got a new part. I think she had to get a transfer. It wasn't like a heart. It was something. And she'll be in class, but she's been in the hospital, and I believe she told me that she'll be in there for like 100 days as her transplant was granted, and she's been doing that. I also would like for us to stand in agreement with Shira. We're praying for God just to be God all by himself in her life and to show up, and she, Amber, as well. Pray for God to show himself and prove himself to be good. And then pray for your 3 people that you're praying for without them knowing or with them knowing. And then pray for yourself as well. So I would like for us to do that corporately. Thank you guys for doing that. And then y'all ready for y'all song? Y'all ready to get it started? And pray for our cousin Tanya. Pray for her sobriety. Amen. We stand in agreement with her and we lift her up and we trust God that he will make her new. And there's no battle that's too hard or too small, right? God is on the move, y'all. I promise you, he is on the move. And he's serious about it. And sometimes we can get ahead of him. And I've noticed that sometimes in class, I can get ahead of him. And he will reel me back very quickly and say, okay, I see this is where you are, and that's good, but we need to reel it back a little bit, right? We're wanting to live these lives fast paced when we are still, in the place of taking it step by step. And so I appreciate God being so good to us that he does not take us on a fast track without allowing us to take the stairs. I was sharing that conversation with a dear friend and sister of mine the other day, that sometimes we want to skip steps. When I used to go do the Calabasas stairs, and it's about, I don't know, it's about 500 steps. And so sometimes what I would do is I would take step by step, one step at a time. I would try to take, big leaps, and I would take 2 or 3 steps at a time. And I thought that it was really helping me. But then I would notice that when I would get further and further, it would make it harder. And I would have to go back because I realized that missing those steps made the difference in what I was trying to accomplish. I was trying to accomplish just tenacity and having momentum and having breath work and skipping those steps actually cut me out of that. And so we serve a really, really, really gracious God. This is a different one, Brazil. This is the Calabasas. I was climbing a mountain. These are just steps I'm talking about. And so what I've learned is that on this walk with God, we would be remiss. He would be remiss if he would allow us to skip steps, right? It doesn't mean that some things you won't ever have to deal with, right? He will circumvent some things for you, but he is a diligent, good God that he will not allow us to miss the most important steps. We got to take the stairs, right? It makes a difference. Y'all ready for y'all song? Let's get it. Hello, 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 and how are you? Mighty fine, mighty fine, mighty fine, and you are too. Hello, 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 and how are you? Mighty fine, mighty fine, mighty fine, and you are too. Cause y'all know what I'm saying. Cause period. Y'all gotta do like my mama used to do. Cause period. Why would we be anything else? Cause period, right? We are mighty fine. If you were on my live the other day, Dana and I were just playing around. It was like on a Sunday evening or something like that. And we were playing around, and I posed a question. Somebody said, you got to bring this to the class. You got to ask this to the class. And so I'll ask y'all. So when you get married, how people have the little hashtags, and they have a little saying like, we had some friends that got married and their last name was going to be Black, and so their hashtag was Meet the Blacks. Y'all know what I'm talking about, right? I'm gonna let y'all in. Y'all will know before the general public, right? But I want y'all to weigh in on this, and then we'll get to class. And so I came up with one, and the more I talk about it, now it's starting to settle with Sweet Face and the kids. Because at first when I said it, they was like, that's the most corny thing, right? But I want y'all to go with me, right? And give me your honest opinion. And so my hashtag that I like, that I think is clever, that I think is cool, right, is this is how we do it. And I'm laughing because y'all know the song. This is how we do it, right? And so I want to do this is how we do it. And Sweetface was like, that's the corniest thing I've ever heard. But I think it's cute because we can get Montel Jordan to come and sing it. And so as we're walking down the aisle together, and we are now Howeries together, so he and I will walk down, and then the kids will walk down with us. And we'll get Montel Jordan to say, this is how we do it. Do y'all think what y'all think? TikTok, what y'all think? Y'all like it? Y'all like it? Facebook, YouTube. So y'all have an inside scoop. I haven't said it to anybody else, but I think it's cute, right? This is how we do it. Okay. Yes, no? Come on, give me a poll. You love it? Cool. Y'all like it? Y'all like it? Y'all like it? Okay, cool. I like it too. When I first said it, everybody was like, oh my gosh, that is so lame. But I'm like, I think the Lord gave me that one. This is how we do it, period. And we got a song to go with it, right? Can you imagine having a soul train line? Because after you do your vows and at the end of the wedding, everybody's standing up, and then so he and I walk down, and then we'll have the kids walk behind us, and everybody's like, "This is how we do it," right? And I think it goes with, like, even though it's corny, it goes with his comedic side, but it goes with my corny side. Somebody said, "No, I don't know, you outweighed right now. You're outnumbered." I think it's cute. I think it's cute. But yesterday we were at lunch, and are y'all reading the book? Who's reading the book with us? Right? Just by a show of hands or hearts, right? Give me a heart if you're reading the book. We're reading. It's called Draw the Circle, right? The 40-day prayer challenge, and we've been reading, I believe, since Friday. And the book is just challenging us to pray outside of our regular prayer life, our mundane, our routine prayer life, right? And so it's really stretching me, and it's really causing me to consider my prayers, not just be so robotic in prayer, but it's also challenging me to write down my prayers, right? And then go back and revisit, and not just so that I can remind God, but so I can remind myself, right? I believe you can download the book. I downloaded mine from Audible. You could probably pick up a hand copy of it from your local bookstore, a Walmart, wherever. I'm sure Amazon has everything, so you can get it. Y'all remember when Amazon used to be just a bookstore? Or am I telling my age? When I was in college, that was our bookstore. We can get just books there. But it's called Draw the Circle. And it's really a phenomenal book because it's really introducing me to consider prayer in a way that I think God designed it to be, right? And so what I've been doing is I've been searching the Bible front to back. I've been scouring it, looking at prayer and saying, well, who prayed consistently in the Bible? Who used prayer as a resource to hear from God, right? And who didn't? Because I know that in the past, I've been one to say, where I've been praying, I should have been commanding and telling a mountain to get out of my way, right? And although I'm not backtracking, I still 100 believe that there's power in my tongue, and I have the ability to command things, right? And tell this thing to get out of my way, right? Because our words have power. But what gives more fuel to that power is my prayer life, my consistent conversation with God, right? I can't go and squeeze, as my therapist said to me one time, you trying to squeeze blood out of a turnip. I can't go and squeeze something that I don't have, right? This is why you see people who are like, they want to come and they say they'll come with a one-time prayer, or they'll come and say, be healed in the name of Jesus, and you literally see nothing. Or you'll see them try to command something, I'm going to call this thing as though they won't. And then you say, well, there's no power, there's no action behind it. You see no movement. And it reminds me of the time when this man brought his son to the disciples, and his son was possessed, and the disciples tried commanding the spirits leave, and nothing happened. And Jesus come, he's like, yo, what's going on? He's like, yo, I took my son to your disciples, and they couldn't do nothing, right? What's up with that? And so Jesus does what Jesus does, and he cancels out the spirits, and the little boy's free. And I'm talking about the fact that the little boy, rolled around in the fire, he rolled around in the water, and Jesus was commanded, the evil spirits to leave. So afterwards, the disciples go, so why could you do that and I couldn't? And Jesus' answer was a testament to all of us. He said, well, some things can only be done through fasting and prayer, right? We want to skip to the good part, and we want to just go and command and tell these things to leave, but we don't have no juice. we ain't got the power. We don't have the gas that makes the car go. We want to jump in the car. We have the vehicle, but we don't have the actual necessity to make the car go. We don't have the power, and the power comes from prayer. And so Jesus could do that, not just because he was Jesus, not only just because he was Jesus. Remember, y'all, Jesus had to grow in wisdom and stature. He had to grow in wisdom. So that means that Jesus had to spend time in prayer, right? And so I know a lot of us, we get in here and we just be like, I said my prayer this morning, I said my prayer at night, and I'm going. But the Bible tells us to pray without ceasing. And I believe now, because I'm committed to living an obedient life, living a life of prayer, that is that prayer, it's being in that conversation with God deliberately, intentionally, all day, all night, that gives me the power. And I've seen it, right? Now y'all know, I mean, I'm a praying woman, but I couldn't always be better at it, right? And be honest with yourself. Can you be better at your prayer life? And since I've decided, good morning, Sissy, and since I've decided to live a more conscious prayer life, like God literally has immediately responded. The book that we're reading, Draw the Circle, gives us this thought, and it says, if you pray regularly, God will make irregular things happen regularly, right? Pray as if it depends on God. Work as if it depends on you, but pray as if it depends on God. And I'll give y'all a short testimony real quick. So I bought a new car. Y'all know this. I bought a new car in February. And I wasn't I bought the car cash, and so car tag and title, everything, when I negotiated the deal. And so the tag, usually, like when I bought my other car, the tag came very quickly, like within a week or two. But this car tag didn't come. And I'm like, yo, it's like here we are in June, July, and I'm still riding around with this car tag that's like a temp tag, and it ain't right. So I'm calling the dealership, I'm calling Porsche, and I'm like, yo, what's up? So finally, we find out that when Porsche sold the car, they didn't do all of the right inspections, which is why the DMV did not release the car tag. But let me tell y'all how God will use chaos for your good, and this is how we know all things are working for your good. And so we finally figure out what the thing is, and after months, they send me new plates, right? They send me my plates, but the plates expire the next month. And I'm like, yo, this ain't fair. Like, why am I having to I've already paid for all of this, right? I paid in cash, I did my part, and I get the plates, and the plates are already about to be expired, which means I'm about to have to come out of pocket another like $700-800, and that's not right. And so I call, first of all, me and Sweetface going back and forth. He's like, Dannella, those are your plates. I was like, they may be my plates, but this ain't the right date. I said, because when you buy a vehicle, your plates don't expire for another year, right? You have 1 year until the plates expire, right? But these were going to expire within a month, right? And so he was like, well, what makes you think that they're going to change the plates for you? And I said, because I have favor over man and land, and because my God is going to fix this, right? Because I'm favored by God, period. And he said, okay. So this was in July. I called, and the lady goes, well, let me see what we can do, because we did have to have a whole corporate meeting about your case, right? There were some things that were mishandled, and we'll try to figure out. She said, I can't make any promises, but let me see. So she said, can you take a picture of the plates and send it to me? I take a picture of the plates. Now this is in July. The plates are due the next month. I don't hear anything from these people, right? Like at this point, I want to drive down to Porsche Beverly Hills because I'm frustrated. I don't want to get pulled over. But y'all know I've now been on this consistent prayer. And so instead of just overreacting, right? Instead of just going into this thing and cussing somebody out or fussing somebody out or getting myself all upset, what happens is, because I'm in continual prayer, I've been disciplined over my emotions. Come on, since the beginning of class, God has been teaching us discipline over our emotions, right? He's been teaching us character work. And so because now I'm ahead of my emotions, I don't lead with my emotions, I'm disciplined. And so I go to God and God tells me how to talk to people instead of how to lead with my emotions. And talking to God will change how you talk to people. And so I'm in a conversation with God about it. Y'all know this, I've been consistent with my prayer life, and I literally give him everything. God, this tag is due. I'm not coming out my pocket another $700, whatever this amount is. I don't care. Hey, good morning, Marquise. I don't care if it's $8, God. Like, I believe that I'm favored. I believe that you already have this taken care of. So, I'm a little flustered, but I go to the mailbox, long story short, yesterday, opened the mailbox, and ta-da, there's a brand new plate. So God answered that. I'm saying that to say, once you are consistent in your prayer life and you take everything and you make it your business to stay in a place of consistent prayer, financial breakthrough doesn't just look like, oh, now I got a ton of money in my account. Sometimes financial breakthrough looks like God paying for those things, or putting someone in position. You know what I mean? I always say that somebody somewhere, let me give y'all language, somebody somewhere is using their skills, their abilities, their resources, and their finance to help finance my life. And that's my language. And if that's my language and if that's true, then I have to remember that I always have to take it to God. Don't be emotional, but just watch it and trust the process. We were having lunch yesterday, and I was telling the girls how Dr. Sabi was saying how he did this fast, and it was a water fast, natural spring water fast, and how it helped reset his body. But during that reset, he said, he temporarily lost his vision. He said there were some things that went wrong or felt like it was going wrong and felt like it was going wonky and one-sided, and it was very scary. And Dayla said something that was so true to us. She goes, how do you trust the process when you feel like you're about to die? How many of you can relate to that question? How can you trust the process when it feels like you're about to die? How many of you been in that situation? You're like, God, I'm trying to trust this process, but it feels like I'm about to die. It feels like I ain't got a grip on nothing. You know what I mean? I'll be honest. I felt like that. I've even felt like that recently. Like, God, I know this working for my good. You know what I'm saying? Like surely it's working for my good. But how do I trust the process when it feels like I'm about to die? That's scary, because my human anatomy makes me want to go into panic. But I'm going to give y'all some tips real quick. So in the book, if you're reading along with us, day 7, it says praying and signs follow, right? And praying and signs follow. So I want to read this scripture to you real quick. Go with me. Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm trying to find it. Where is it? I think it is in, I highlighted it, but I can't find it. Oh, here we go. Mark 16 and 20. Mark 16 and 20. Let me read it to you. It says, then the disciples went out and preached everywhere, and the Lord worked with them and confirmed his word by the signs that accompanied it. Another translation says, by the signs that followed. By the signs that followed. Pray like it depends on you, but work like it depends on, pray like it depends on God, but work like it depends on you. God will honor your faith. The name of the book is Draw the Circle. God will honor your faith. Apostle Hilliard used to say to me, when I told him I was taking a leap of faith, right? And I said, I'm just going to, go from the East Coast. I'm going to take my kids from the East Coast to the West Coast because, we're believing that God is giving us new territory and access. And he says to me, he says, God will give you more on your way than you first get started. God will give you more on your way than you first get started. And it didn't start to, good morning, Van, it didn't start to resonate, and it really didn't start to make sense until I started to be on my way. And I noticed that the more I would apply my faith and take a step, right? And the more I would be in consistent prayer and say, well, God, listen, I may not know what the answer is, and I don't know, right? I even had my kids saying, I don't know how it's going to get done, but I know you're going to do it. Surely he would back it up. Right? Signs following, meaning you move and then God will move, right? It's interesting because the scripture tells us, he says, then the disciples went out and preached, meaning listen to the operative word. Listen to how it goes. Then they went out. They're moving, they're taking action and preached everywhere. And the Lord worked with them. And the Lord worked with them. Hear me. He's telling you, I need you to take the step. A lot of us are sitting here and we're like, God, if you open up the door, I'll walk in it. If you tell me how to do it, or if you go and you let them call me, then I'll have the conversation. God, if you do it, then I'll know it's you. And God is saying, no, I need you to make the first step. Once you make the first step, once you go out, it says the Lord will work with you and confirm that he's with you by signs that accompany him, meaning they come after. So I'm gonna need you to take that step, Kirsten. I'm blessed out favor. I'm gonna need you to take that step. Long story short, I'm gonna need you to take that step. You're sitting on your hands and you're like, well, God, you do something and then I'll know that it's you. And that's not how it's worked. He said you have to, in faith, you're gonna have to take that step. Once you take that step, I'm gonna work with you. I'm going to move with you. I'm going to clear the way. I'll make the crooked road straight, right? And then once you move in and I work with you, it says then signs will follow. That car tag situation was a sign that God's saying, Dannella, your prayer life, you're moving in the right direction. And I want you guys to take notice of once you're beginning to be more obedient and you're listening to God more and you're submitting your requests and you're submitting your conversations and you're praying more. And it's not just, I'm coming here, God, asking for something. It's literally, God, I'm inviting you into every situation, right? Listen, I'm inviting you into every situation. And once I'm always in conversation about everything, every business meeting, every conversation with the school, with the kids, like everything. Once I'm having these conversations, God, then I see the signs that you're with me. And I know that you've seen signs. I know that you're praying for God to break through something, a situation, or there's even it could be something minute and he shows up. So let me give you some steps real quick and then we'll wrap it up. So when you have a lifestyle of prayer, but before I say that, let me say this. Where some of you are so close to your dreams, but you're waiting on God, but he's waiting on you. You like, God, you move. He's like, when you move, I move just like that. And I know that it's scary. It sounds like Dayla saying, well, how can you do it when it feels like you're dying? How can you trust it when it feels like you're dying? So I live on a hill. And as I was coming up the hill, y'all know how when the sun is bright early in the morning, when that sunrise is happening and you have that you have to do like this. You know what I mean? Y'all know what I mean? Right? When you have to do like this because the sun is kind of like in your eyes and you can't see what's ahead of you, but you still have to drive. You still got to go those next couple of feet to get out of that brightness, right? And so you're doing it by faith. You're blinded temporarily, but you're still moving and you're trusting that I'm just going to do it. You know what that's called? That's called moving in faith. If I can be a little churchy for a second. That's called, I'm moving in faith. I can't see what's ahead of me, but I'm trusting that I'm just going to take these next couple of steps and it's going to be okay, right? Like I'm not going to hit nobody. Ain't nobody going to hit me. And let me prove it to you. How many of you have done that even recently? Like I did it this morning. I had to hold my hand over my eyes so I can see, but I made it up the hill, right? And that's where many of us are. You know, it's just temporary, but you got to trust that God literally sees what's ahead of you. And so we get in these places where we're like, no, because I can't see what's on the other side. But truly, it's called blind faith. So when you have a lifestyle of prayer, there are 4 things. Is it 4? Yeah, 4 things. I wrote down 4 things that I want to give y'all real quick. 4 things. Write these down for me. Prayer gives you peace in the storm. Prayer gives you peace in the storm. So when you're not, so when you're going through a storm, you're not reactive, you're responsive. If I'm living a life of prayer, right? If I'm living a life where I'm always in conversation with God and I'm always in prayer, although I don't know that a storm may be coming, but many of you know the story that I told you. God was telling me that the girl's show was about to end. He had given me all the signs and all the prompts and letting me know. But instead of me taking heed, I was like, I bind and rebuke. I bind and rebuke. And God was like, you can bind and rebuke all you want, but this is what's happening because I'm going to get you to another side of something, right? And so, but when you're in continuous prayer, when you're living a life of prayer, when your lifestyle is always conversation, what happens is when you go through a storm, you're not like everybody else. You're not just running around like a chicken with your head cut off. You're not just running around fretful and scared. You're not running around anxious and overreacting. You're responsive. You know that when a storm comes, the correct response is to say, Father, listen, I know that you know that I'm in this situation. I know that you know this is what's happening. I know that you know that you've given me insight, hindsight, and foresight. I know that you're in this. Prayer gives you peace in a storm. And so because there's a storm, a temporary storm at that, there's no storm that lasts forever. There's no storm that lasts forever. This is a temporary storm, God. I'm going to be responsive and instead of reactive. I'm not going to overreact because this is what I know to be true. How you react in a storm, what you do in a storm will determine what God does next. What you do in a storm determines what God does next. If I get in this storm and I give into this storm and, oh, Lord, it is what it is, perhaps you'll stay in that storm longer, or you repeat it because you didn't get what you were supposed to get out of it. Perhaps when you get in there and you act as if, oh, God ain't going to come through for you, and you just start having a hissy fit and you're beating on the walls and just now your mouth starts to follow, and now your response is not a positive one. Your response is now one that will keep you in that thing, because instead of you saying, yo, my God will get me out of this, yea, though I walk through the valley of the storm, I will fear no evil because he's with me. You'll be like the 3 Hebrew boys and say, listen, even if he doesn't deliver me, I know he will. Listen, my God will deliver me, but even if he don't, you know what I mean? But if you're reactive, you have the opposite. Your mouth starts to talk against you. And then what happens is when your mouth starts to talk against you, your words have power. And because your words have power, now you've dictated. And now you sit in that thing longer and you're feeling like, well, I ain't going to never get out of this thing. And all you did was you just fed it more. And you're like, but it is. I'm telling you, it is what it is. I know because I've been in this thing for this long. And all you're doing is you're giving it more power. All you're doing is feeding it more. And you're like, oh, you don't get it. You don't get it because you're not in it. And all you did was you gave it more. And at what point, the disciples are like, yo, look at this storm. Like we finna wreck. Lord, this is crazy. And then they go, and Jesus is just chilling. Jesus is like, yep, well, because I'm not reactive, I'm responsive. I don't act like everybody else. What? Jesus, don't you know it's a storm? Yeah, I know. You tripping. No, Jesus, why won't you get all hyped? Because what happens is people want you to get hyped. They want you to get up and get hyped too. They want you to start to bad mouth your storm. They want you to bad mouth your situation. And then ultimately they want you to bad mouth your God. They want you to bad mouth them, and they want to have you ended up where they are or stuck. and Jesus like, yo, chill. Stop that. Stop that. If you're in conversation, if you're in prayer, living a life of prayer, living a life, good morning, brother. If you're in a life of prayer, living a life of prayer, you become responsive and not reactive. You have a peace that surpasses all understanding. You have a peace that surpasses all understanding. After my mama's passing, I told y'all, I had a peace about it. Doesn't mean that I don't get emotional and I cry and I miss her. It doesn't mean that it's the wildest thing. It's the craziest thing. I said it last night, yo, this is the craziest thing. But I'm not reactive. I'm not falling out. My life does not end. Because I'm committed to living a life of prayer, and I'm committed to saying, well, God, you know what's best. You knew this, and I know that you know how to comfort and cover me. And so I'm responsive instead of reactive. That comes with a life of prayer, because you know in conversation with God that I don't have to react, because he already knows what the end will be. And so I just stay along for the ride. I buckle up, right? I buckle up. You know when you get in the car, there's that little bar. My mama called it the Lord have mercy bar. I buckle up and I hold on to the Lord have mercy bar, right? And as we're going, you know, I'm going to shake a little bit, but I'm like, yo, God, I know you got the wheel. Yeah, all right, cool. I may have to put my hand up like this because I'm walking by blind faith, right? But I'm just kind of like, all right, cool. And it's just me speaking from experience. You know what I mean? Like, okay, cool. All right. Oh, what do you know? We've arrived. We didn't have to double back. My mouth didn't make us have to double back. My mouth didn't reroute us in a direction that would take us into a circle where we're wandering for 40 years. You know what I mean? Like my mouth didn't what my mama say, write a check that my butt wasn't ready to handle. You see what I'm saying? Like I just got in and trust God. So a lifestyle of prayer prayer gives you peace in a storm. Y'all got that one? When you talk to God before the storm, you have peace in the storm. How you respond during the storm determines what happens next. Discipline over your emotions will tell you how to talk to God, not people. That's a good note. When I have discipline over my emotions, right? It tells me that I need to go talk to God and not people. And listen, I know we all have those inner circles. My brother's on here, a couple of my sisters are on here, and they're part of my inner circle, and there are things that I share with them, right? And there are things that they share with me. But what I'm saying is when you have a life of prayer, you don't have to hang up a phone and say, did I say too much? Did I say the wrong thing? Did I talk myself out of the wrong thing? It's a personal conversation between me and God. And so I go to God instead of going to people. Because sometimes we'll even go to people that we are not even really familiar with, and we'll go and lay our conversation, lay our story down, and what happens is they cause us to be in more of a stuck place and more of a chaotic place because their wisdom is misguidance. And so God said, just bring it to me, talk to me, have that call with me. And so what happens is when you have discipline over your emotions, it'll tell you when to talk to God and not people. But talking to God will change how you talk to people. Listen, Talking to God before you get on the phone and you call your mama. Before you get on the phone, you call your BFF. Before you get on the phone, you call your brother. If you talk to God first, it will change how you talk to people. And some of that stuff is too weighty for people to even carry. You know, somebody said to me one time, how are you? Can I tell you something? Are you in a place where this will be too weighty? And I said, well, maybe I am. I appreciate you asking me that first. I appreciate you asking me that. Maybe this is something for you and your therapist, or maybe I'm not the friend. Maybe you should talk to God first. Because everybody's not going to ask you if you're in a place where they can pour out or they can throw something on you. You know, although we want to be that strong friend, sometimes we're going through something too. But having that conversation with God first will determine how you talk to people. It'll even determine how you talk to people that are not your friend, you know, somebody that's gotten on your nerves, or how to talk to your spouse when you're not having the best day with your spouse or your loved one, or when you're not having the best day with your children. Talking to God first will tell you how to communicate with them. Y'all got that one? Let's move on. Prayer gives you power in deliverance. I said in the beginning of this, I was talking about how, you know, we want to command, we want to tell this thing to get. I rebuke you, I bind you, leave, you know, like sickness, leave. In the name of Jesus, you want to bind and you want to tell it to go, but then you're like, yo, I told this thing to go. How come it didn't work for me? Right? The disciples said, Jesus, how come we did the same thing? How come it didn't work for us? And his response was, some things are only answered through prayer and fasting. And we skip the steps. We want an automatic download of power, but you ain't got no juice because you haven't gone to the source. God has not given you that power because you don't have conversation with him. You just talking. And so living a life of prayer, it gives you power and deliverance. Some things you can only take to Jesus. It must be taken to the Father. Prayer and fasting. You like, I told this thing to stop. I commanded my accounts to grow. I commanded my relationships to get better. You know, I commanded my illness to be healed, and nothing's happening. Surely. Because there's an element that you're missing. There's an element of prayer that you're missing. And so I'm saying, perhaps if you are committed to living a life of prayer, then you will always walk in that power. You got him with you all day long. Got that one? Prayer teaches you submission in the process. This is number 3. Prayer teaches you submission to the process. I told y'all, Dayla was like, yo, how do you trust the process when it feels like you're gonna die? But here's the thing. You feel like you're gonna die because you're trying to do it on your own. You only feel that way because you're taking it as your storm, your problem, your process, your situation. When God has clearly told you, well, cast your cares on me. If you give it to me, then you're not in this thing alone. So you can trust the process because you know I'm holding on to my Lord have mercy bar. There's some bumps, right? There's some bumps, but I'm trusting the process. I'm trusting that we're gonna get where we're going. We're gonna get to our ultimate location because I have the Father with me, right? The Garden of Gethsemane shows us how to submit to the part of the journey when we don't like it. God will sometimes send that part that we don't like to kill our flesh. Let me read about Garden of Gethsemane to you real quick. The Garden of Gethsemane. In the Garden of Gethsemane, then Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane. And he said to them, sit here while I go over there to pray. Did y'all know Jesus lived a life of prayer? If we're to imitate him, then we should live a life of prayer. He said, y'all sit here, I'm going to go over here to pray. He says, he took Peter and then the two sons of Zebedee along with him, and he began to be sorrowful and troubled. See, when you're going through your something, we all go through our somethings. And when you go through your somethings, you omit the Garden of Gethsemane. You skip by it. The Garden of Gethsemane is your place of prayer. It's where you get those conversations in. It says in that garden, it's when Jesus was sorrowful and troubled. And many of you are feeling sorrowful and troubled, and you're like, well, what do I do? Go into your Garden of Gethsemane. Listen, it says, then he says to them, my soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. He says, now I'm going to leave y'all and I'm going to go even further, right? Because this conversation is going to be between me and God. It's not a conference call. It's not a conference call. He says, stay here and watch. Keep watch with me. Going a little further, it says, he fell with his face to the ground and prayed, my Father, if it's possible, may this cup be taken from me, yet not as I will, but as you will. Then he returned to his disciples. The Garden of Gethsemane is where God was stretching Jesus, because although he was Jesus, what happened was his flesh still had to be broken. And so in the Garden of Gethsemane is where our flesh dies daily. And a lot of the pain that we're experiencing is because we don't want to let go of our flesh. We don't want to let go of the things that we say, well, this is what makes me me. This is just how I'm made. This is just me. It is who I am. This is how God made me. This is how God designed me. And this is my characteristic. And sure, great. But if God has said, I need to break that part of you away because that part no longer serves who I'm now calling you to be, then you have to be willing to get into that Garden of Gethsemane. And you're going to have to grieve that old part of you. But what prayer does is it teaches you to be submissive in that process. It teaches you how to not just be frantic in that process, because the process is going to process. It always does. As long as you are alive, baby, you're going to process. You're going to always be in the crock pot. You're going to always be in a process. You're going to always need to be stirred. You're going to always need to be flipped and turned because we're growing. Y'all got that? Last one I'm going to give you. Prayer teaches us the parting or separation of guilt and sin. Prayer teaches us how to part with our guilt and our sin. We carry, and when I say we, it's inclusive, because me too, carry guilt, sin, shame, all of these weighty things that are so heavy that won't allow us to even go to him in prayer because we feel like we're too dirty. We feel like we're too broken. We feel like we're ashamed. And God, you surely, like we come up with all these excuses, even though we know that he went to the cross for all this, although we know we're forgiven, we still carry it. But God, I know, and maybe I'm going through this storm because of what I did in my past. Maybe I'm going through this storm because of who I was. Maybe I'm going through this thing. This is number 4. Number 4 is prayer teaches you to part or separate from guilt and sin. And we continue to want to convince ourselves that we're going through this storm because of who we were. And this is punishment. And this is why we're going through this. And God is like, yo, it's not punishment. Like, how many times do I have to say that? It's not punishment. It's just part of your process. And many of you are carrying this heavy, heavy weight, and it's showing up in your body because it comes out one way or another. You're like, I got these migraines. I can't shake this weight. I'm having stomach issues. It's coming out of my skin. Because what happens is we will guilt ourselves, we will shame ourselves to the point that it seeps out of us. It stresses us so much that now it's showing up in our body. Now we have stress that's showing up. Now we've worried and we've made up these ideas in our minds so much. Now we're restless. We can't even sleep. Now we're groggy. We show up to work and we got bad attitudes. It's all a domino effect. And it's because you're carrying something that once you're talking to God, once you're having conversation, He gonna tell you, baby, I'm not mad at you. I'm not mad at you. I know, listen, don't get me wrong. I know there are teachers out there that's part of their ministry and they feel like that's what God has called them to do. And that's to teach fire and brimstone and to beat you over the head for what you've done. And they shun you and they silence you and they rebuke you and they send you off and they say you sit in this corner because God is not pleased with you. And so you just sit there. And now you just think about what you do, As parents, sometimes that's how we discipline our kids. You go think about what you did. And the truth of the matter is, God ain't like us. Those are people. His thoughts aren't our thoughts. His ways aren't our ways. But one thing's for one thing's for certain. Two things. He ain't mad at you. And if he was punishing you, he would have took you out a long time ago. You think he gonna short torture you? Who you think God is? That he gonna short torture you? Like day by day, he got a slow drip of torture. Oh, I'm in this agony because he got a slow drip of torture going on. Then he wouldn't be the God that he is. You know what I mean? Then he wouldn't be the God that he is. It's part of the process. And if you change your perspective and you stop looking at it as punishment, but start to look at it as preparation. Ooh, I'm going through this process because something big is on its way. God is entrusting me with something amazing. I'm about to be so amazing. This process is just preparation to make me more amazing, right? But that comes along with you sitting with your Father, your Heavenly Father, and Him telling you daily. And every time you have that moment of shame and guilt, and I feel like, God, I'm carrying the weight of what I did, like God's like, let it go, let it go. It's showing up in your body, it's showing up. God, I got this headache. God, I got this. He's like, let it go, let it go. And then you learn to now change your conversation. You learn to now switch the way you're talking. It's no longer, God, like what did I do? Or God, this is punishment. No. God is like, yo, this is preparation. And so we're going to get rid of the headache because now you know how to speak to that headache. Because now you got power. Because remember, a life of power, a life of prayer gives you power and deliverance. It's a process. It's a process. A life of power gives you the power to say to those things, shame, listen, I'm not going to let you hold me to my past. God has made me new. I'm renewed. Sin, I'm not going to let you hold me down because I got power over that. But that only comes with living a life of prayer. The last thing we're going to declare before we get out of here is, I'm here for a reason, not for a season. When you realize that God has you, He created you, He ordained you, right? Literally planted you in your mama's womb for a reason, that you're not just here for nothing. God wasn't bored, right? He wasn't bored, so He didn't just decide to create Tanya because He was bored. He didn't create Trey because he was bored, right? Lolo, he didn't say, yo, I'm bored today. Let me make a Miss Wiley. No, there's reason. When you start to establish and understand that I'm here for a reason and not a season, you start to have a confidence. Okay, then God, if I'm here for a reason, I have a confidence, and my confidence is in you, that whatever I'm going through, like that reason will not be in vain. You know my needs, you know my desires, you know my wants, you created me. And so I know that all those things will flow. But all of that comes through a life of prayer. My prayer is that you guys are committed from this day forward to living a life of prayer. Not just one when you're burdened, not just one when you need something, not just one when you want a breakthrough, but you live a life of prayer that consists of when it's good, when it's bad, when I'm happy, when I'm sad. A life of prayer that's consistent with God's word. A life of prayer that you pray without ceasing. That's my prayer for you guys. I pray that your day is good. I pray that your day is well. I pray that you walk in good health. I pray that you walk in wealth. I pray that you walk in understanding and knowing, and that God reveals himself to you. I pray that the signs shall follow you. I pray that you have an urge and a desire to get to know your God. I love y'all. I will see y'all tomorrow. Thank you guys for sowing consistently. Thank you for always pouring into our ministry and pouring into our reservoir. Thank you for helping our cousins. Thank you for being the lender and not the borrower. Thank you for being the head and not the tail. Thank you for actually putting action behind your word. You don't just talk about it. You are about it. I thank you guys for being consistent. The ways to sow are pinned on my page. And so if you want to sow and you want to be a blessing to our cousins and to our community, I thank you for that. I love y'all. I'll see y'all tomorrow. We're going to stay in this thing. If you have the book, we're on day 8 tomorrow. And we may start a fast tomorrow too. I'm praying about it. And I'll let y'all know. All right, be blessed. Be blessed. I'll see y'all later. Bye.